Welcome to the Awaken the Awesome podcast with your host, Olivier D. This is Awaken the Awesome, a podcast where we acknowledge that we are all in this together. Through enlightening conversations and personal insights, we like to engage with individuals just like you who show us how they are bringing a little bit of awesomeness along their individual journeys. Our hope is to inspire you to always keep pushing and to stay awesome along the way. If I had simply brushed off our first interaction as one of those random likes or comments you get and not even consider it as a second thought, chances are pretty high that I would have surely missed out on a truly special kind of friendship with my next guest. With all the proverbial noise going around social media, it's easy to overlook the fact that there are actual people at the other end. People just like you with a sense of curiosity, dreams, ambitions, motivations, opinions, and personal perspectives that are quite the discovery if you take the time to get curious and listen. To say that Alain Guillot wears many hats is an understatement. Case in point, photographer, real estate investor, podcaster, dance instructor, speaker, and author. And here I was thinking I had a full plate. On this episode, Alain and I have a candid and energetic exchange about his journey to Canada from his native Colombia, the importance of a proper mindset when dealing against the odds, being open to different experiences, staying committed, and so much more. So let's get into this. Awaken the Awesome, episode 110 with Alain Guillot. Here we go. No, but I'm genuinely excited to have you on. First of all, because of all the genuine connections and interactions we've had on the LinkedIns of this world. And I have to admit, genuinely, I don't get on LinkedIn that much, but, when I realize what a very vibrant community and, like-minded podcasters and entrepreneurs and go-getters and champions are going around and having some genuine, interesting conversations. And then when I saw Alain just really interacting, sometimes there are people you just see, just like your content or you like back, but there are people you interact with on a very genuine human level. And Alain was definitely one of those people. So it's definitely a real treat, first of all, when we connected, and the mutual support is always appreciated. And I can't thank you enough for that. But also when we had the opportunity to connect in person at LinkedIn Montreal, your recent event on the celebration of your 100 episode, congratulations again. Because that's a really, really, really big milestone. But Alain, as the universe does allow, and you never know how these things happen, but when the universe allows us to connect, it's a genuine feeling. And I just want to say thank you so much for being on the podcast. Welcome.
Man, thank you so much. I have been following you for a little bit, Oliver, and this is an honor to be here talking to you. And likewise, I think we are a small community of podcasters right here in Montreal, and I just reach out to see, who are my peers? Who are the people who share the same passion as I do? And that's how I connected with you. I just say, who is this Oliver guy? And I listen to some of your podcasts, and I like the bass in your voice.
I appreciate
it. Wow, this guy seems so. That's and I felt tempted to just say hello. My fellow podcaster. How's it going? And that's how we got to meet.
And it's as simple as that, because at the very core, we're all human beings and we're all in this together. And at the very basis, what's the harm in just saying hi, who are you? This is who I am. This is what you do. And this is how we connect. And lo and behold, here we are having a genuine conversation with like-minded peers. And it's really so much fun to have you on, because there's so much we can talk about. But one thing that I've always admired about all the content that you push out is about this drive and this eagerness that you have to actually just convince and keep reminding people that they have the power within themselves to change their lives and do it for the better. Because you've worn so many hats, dance teacher, entrepreneur, real estate investor, financial coach, podcaster, so many things. But there's so many things we're going to get about. But I'm just going to start with a basic question. Why are people so afraid to go after their dream? Why do you think that, Alain?
It's comfort. You see, we are all dreamers. When we were all little kids, we used to dress up as Superman or Wonder Woman. We used to play housewife, house kids, and we had all these games and imagination, and we believed that everything was possible. And then as we are growing up, the adults begin to tell us, be realistic, be serious. You have to be responsible. You have to stop dreaming and live in the real world. And little by little, those dreams and those fantasies begin to be chipped away. And then all of a sudden, we don't find ourselves studying the scene that we want, the art, the creative scene. We end up doing something practical, going to law school, becoming an accountant, becoming a doctor. And sometimes it's not even we believe that that's our decision, but no, I think it's the programming that have been done not only by our parents, but our society in general. And we lose that, we call it risk taker in as an adult, but that sense of wonder, that sense of discovery. And I think it's a shame. Somehow there should be a way in which we should be able to continue dreaming and still earn a living. Everything doesn't have to be black and white. We don't have to give up our dreams in order to have a career to feed a family. Somehow there has to be a way to put it all together. And as you said, I have been doing photography, real estate, and this and the other thing. But what I have really been doing is to find a way to earn a living and at the same time bring that inner child alive in order to live other dreams. And that's how it happens.
You often speak about in some of your snippets and videos over LinkedIn about, how you came to Montreal as an immigrant. And take us back there. What was the motivation and what were the circumstances that brought you here?
Well, I come from Colombia, and at the time that I came, Colombia was a poorer country. There were lack of opportunities, and I was hanging out with the wrong crowd. I was hanging out with friends, and I was one of them who like alcohol, like a little bit of gambling, maybe smoking a joint or two. Now it's legal, so now I feel comfortable saying it. But I felt like I wasn't going anywhere. And I felt like I needed a drastic change, a paradigm shift in order to take my life to a higher level. So I was afraid that if I stay in my circle of friends, I would just grow up to be that same person. We know that you are the average of the five people who are around you, and I needed to find another five people around me that were not the same five friends, and I felt a little bit trapped. So I started looking at a National Geographic magazine, and I saw pictures of Montreal. And I said, and so I did some research, and I said, wow, education there is not expensive. There is this melange of culture. These people seems to be from everywhere. They seem to be happy. And I just made all this deduction from that National Geographic magazine, and I made up my mind. So I started sending letters to the embassy and letters to find out more information, and that's how I made the decision to come here. And I came here as a student, then I got a working visa, then I became resident, then a citizen. But it was basically running away from my environment. I knew that if I stay within this group of people, I wouldn't advance much in life. So I was looking for a different life.
That says a lot about something we often talk about in terms of change, resistance to change, or acceptance of change. And what I mean by that is what I heard from you was some honest accountability for where you were at the time, and you understood consciously that you had to make a pivot. You had to basically orient yourself towards another outcome because you know that down this road, these are the options that are for me. Not that, not that pretty. And if I don't make a switch right now and veer right, normally I have the power within me to make the choice to something better. So I'd like you to, just extend a little bit on that one in terms of the power of choice, because we do have a choice, I believe.
Yes, and sometimes you find it when you are taking a shower. You start thinking, what am I doing? How can I improve my life? Sometimes, unfortunately, is when an unfortunate event happens and you find yourself like, I cannot continue this any longer. In my case, I have always been a little bit of a dreamer, and I just also used to watch a lot of movies, and I just through the movies I used to tell myself there is something better out there. I don't have to stay here. If I try, if I take a chance, there is something better out there. I continue repeating that to myself. There's a world out there with more opportunities than the ones that I have available. And I also knew that education was the key. I tried school several times and I didn't succeed. Like I said, my friends dragged me down and I would start and quit and then start and quit again. So if I wanted to change my life, I had to change my environment.
What were the big changes? What were the big adaptations that you had to deal with leaving from Colombia, coming to Montreal?
Well, I have, first of all, I came as a student and I didn't have enough money to live as a student. I had to show the government of Canada that I was able to afford my education, but in fact, I was not. I was able to borrow money from family members to put it in my bank account. Then I took a photocopy of that bank account. I sent it to the university, and they assumed that I was able to pay for my education. But in fact, I just had enough money to survive the first year, and that was
Oh,
it.
wow.
So when I came here, I was going to school and working as a janitor at night. And the way that I was able to pass my classes was that I used to have a Walkman, which is now the equivalent of a digital recorder. And
Hmm.
I used to record all my classes, knowing that I wouldn't have time to study, but I will record all those classes. And then my job as a janitor was to vacuum clean office buildings. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was vacuuming office buildings, office, and listening to all my classes. And somehow, through that, I survived. Of course, I had many other different jobs like that, but as I was doing this, I was seeing the possibilities. I was seeing other people living better life than I was living, and I knew that if I stay consistent, I could also live a better life. So that kept me strong. That kept me going, and it was difficult. But when we have hope of something better, when you have a why, you can endure anyhow.
That speaks a lot about two very powerful. You just brought up two very powerful concepts that we keep bringing up in entrepreneur circles and winner circles, and how, first of all, how you have, and that's what I heard from you. I heard there was a lot of courage, despite all the hardships and unfortunate circumstances. It takes a lot of resourcefulness to actually say, you know what, this is how I'm going to get it done. And second, I also heard you talking about visualization and talking down the path of saying, you know what, this is not the end for me. This is just a chapter. And so many times, often enough, people think that because they're having a bad day, let's call it as is, they think that it's the end all and be all of their situation. I'm wondering if you could speak on that in terms of how do we tap into that hope and look forward to the next day.
Well, I find it here very easy. All you have to do is look around you. I mean, the path doesn't seem so difficult if we all know the path that if you get a college diploma, let's say, that becomes the passport to get a job. Okay, whether you
Hmm.
like the job or not, at least you have that passport. Now, once you have that passport, once you get that job, then you don't have to love that job. That's just the first step. Then you can do what it takes to switch to the next job that will give you a better life. What I feel is that a few people have this mentality that this is where I am and I'm stuck here forever. And there are so many resources. I mean, there is all kind of online courses that you can take. And if you don't like where you are, you can just do a little 1 extra hour per day of self-education. And within 6 months, you have another passport to go to another job. And it's just like a staircase. And I feel like this really frustrates me that people just stay stuck in that place. I don't want to feel sound insensitive, but imagine, for example, that you are a cashier
Mm-hmm.
in Walmart, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And 5 years later, you are still a cashier and you are complaining because you are a cashier and Walmart is not paying you enough money to live. Well, if 5 years later you are still as working as a cashier, it's no Walmart's fault. It's your fault for not taking steps necessary to move to the next level, to move to, I don't know, being manager assistant and then manager and then supervisor or whatever the class or the course or sacrifice that you have to make in
Mm-hmm.
order to get out of that situation. So I see the staircase as very clear path to go to wherever you want to go. But of course, if you go home and turn on your Netflix and open your 6 packs of beer and do nothing to improve yourself, of course, 5 years later, you're still going to be a cashier.
Obviously, obviously. And again, it's not insensitive at all because these are the hard conversations and the real truths that need to be spoken in order to help people understand that there is no reward in complacency. There is no victory without effort, sacrifice, and grit. And that's what I'm hearing. You actually put in the work, you put in the time, you put in the resourcefulness to actually elevate and educate yourself, and the rewards will come with patience. And I want to talk about that because, as I know, again, with the immigration process must have been very grueling, and again, must have been very patient and very enduring. But how did you keep yourself motivated? How did you keep yourself okay? Let's get through this day, and let's get through this day. Because sometimes you can get exhausted and you can question yourself, and the fear can set in. But how did you pass through those hurdles?
Well, I tell you my most difficult time. As I was going to school, I just knew that that was something that I have to do. Whatever sacrifice, whatever it was, which is working as a janitor and then going to school, I knew that it was temporary. The difficult part came after I finished school. I graduated, and you may be able to detect I have a Spanish accent. Well, for me, that was a huge impediment because 10 years ago it was much worse. And I studied finance, and I had such a hard time finding a job. I actually felt that I was being discriminated.
Oh
My
wow.
CV was, I got a lot of interviews, but as soon as I opened my mouth, the interviewer just showed me that he wasn't interested anymore. Anyways, I ended up taking a job as a insurance salesperson, and
Wow.
the thing that really bothered me is that in this business, the business of financial products, we are encouraged to sell the products that give us the highest commission for me as a salesperson, and
Okay.
the highest commission for the employer, the insurance company. And the client itself is put like at the lower rank. If the client in himself get any benefit, that's just like an extra. But we have to look out for our commission and for the commission of our employers. And this is when I felt that I was really being challenged because my dream, when I started finance, was to help people have a better financial situation. And here in the real world, I was doing totally the inverse. I was taking away from the regular retail consumer to give to the big corporations. And after a few months, I lasted 9 months doing that, and I just felt I couldn't do it anymore. Every time I make a sale and it was a high commission sale, instead of feeling happy, I really felt like throwing up. And as you could imagine, if you feel sick to your stomach every time you make a sale, you are just not going to become a good salesperson.
Obviously.
Uh, so anyway, after 9 months, I had an argument with my supervisor because my sales were not up to the par. Our team was not going to win the trip to Cuba. We were competing against another team, and I
Hmm.
was the lagger in the team. And my supervisor was upset, and I just said, listen, I just really cannot handle this anymore. I quit. And I say that I quit, and I saw those words kind of leaving my lips, and I tried to grab them back from the air, but I couldn't. They were said, and once I said those words, I quit. Then I feel a great relief. I didn't know how I was going to
You really
pay my
felt it.
rent. I didn't know what was going to become of my life as an employee from that point on, but I felt such a relief because I didn't have to screw people anymore. And then that's where my entrepreneurial career started. That's when I started a dance school that became very successful. From the dance school, I started dribbling in real estate, which I was very lucky and I did quite fine. I started learning and participating in the stock market. So I had a series of success, but it was out of necessity, out of not being able to find a job because my accent was not the right accent, because I quit from a financial institution and another one wouldn't hire me anymore. And I am just so grateful that I was able to stick to my principles. Well, I guess I saw myself for 9 months, but at the end, I stuck to my principles and I was able to build a career from that.
Congratulations on that. Congratulations, because there's some hearing all those hurdles and all these adventures and misadventures that you had to wade through. But it speaks a lot about, again, just being true to yourself, because it takes a lot of accountability and honesty to face your fears and face your current situation, to realize that, you know what, this is not making me well. This, because you're talking about being sick to your stomach, obviously this is causing me strife, this is causing me illness, and this is not bringing me joy. And if anything, when we try to carry ourselves out into this thing called life, we want to be of service and we want to be true and we want to be, dare I say, happy. And good on you for taking that leap to actually, try to explore what this, unfortunate circumstance can bring in terms of rewards and again, something that can actually make you happy. But now that you don't have a job, now you have to, find a way to make it happen. So do you believe that sometimes we have to be, with our backs against the wall to actually figure it out?
Uh, yes. Well, um, that's when we start shaking our head and trying to look in the deepness of our imagination what could be a solution to get out from the hole where we are. And that's exactly what I did. And what happened is when I was going to university, I and working, I had a girlfriend that would force me to go with her to dance classes. She just put her foot down. If you're gonna be my boyfriend, we might as have some fun together. Otherwise, what's the point? So I started taking dance classes with my girlfriend, and we were very regular. And I became an okay dancer. And then we started giving free dance class to a university association, and that's how I learned how to teach to dance. And I did that for free for 3 years at the university. And then once I was looking for a job, I just said, wow, I people were happy to pay me for. I mean, I was teaching dance at the university. I'm going to see if people are willing to pay me. So I put an ad, and my intention was to do this just momentarily while I was looking and finding a job. And I put ads all over the university, and people started calling, and there I started doing this, the dancing, and then all of a sudden I find that my agenda is getting fuller and fuller and fuller,
Just like that.
and I didn't have any more time to look for a job. And then at a given moment I said, wait a minute, I am not earning much, but man, I having fun. I'm having fun dancing with these good-looking ladies who are always smiling, who have manicure and lipstick, and everyone. I'm invited to all kind of social events, and I'm paying my rent, and I'm paying for my food, and I'm happy. And I feel honest. People are giving me money and they're coming out of my dance floor very happy, satisfied for giving me that amount of money that they gave me for those classes. And it was at that moment that I said, this is something that I think I would like to pursue. And then I took it more seriously. I found a business partner, which she still works with me. And we opened this dance school, and due to our hard work and enthusiasm and happiness to share what we had, our school blossomed. Like from day one, our dance classes were full and we were making a living. We had a business and we were doing just fine. Of course,
Bravo.
every semester we had a little bit of a fear because somehow people waited until the last moment to register for the dance class. But once things got going, our dance classes were full. And I think for a given time, we were running one of the most successful and more profitable dance schools in the city.
Isn't that a terrific thing when they really tell you that, do what you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life? Work doing something that you love. And that's then just hearing you tell this story, I'm just closing my eyes and I'm hearing all these wonderful opportunities, all these people banging down the door just to come and take lessons. And that's an amazing, amazing thing. And well, that gives you a lot of hope, doesn't it? In terms of, for all the people listening to this, when it's all about taking chances, it's all about trying different things, and it's all about not feeling that you are confined to one box. And that's one example that we can definitely take from you, Alain, is the fact that with all these, with all these hats that you've worn and you're still wearing, throughout your journey. And it's an important thing to remind people that, you are perfectly allowed to try different things. And I'm wondering if you can encourage people just to use you as an example that, yes, you can try to be a real estate investor, try your luck at the stock market, try to open a dance school, try to write that book, try to write that film, try to put out, try that speaking engagement, speak for free. How can we help them out there?
Well, I feel that we have a few enemies that get in our way. That means, first of all, since the moment we wake up until we go to sleep, we are constantly bombarded with advertisements to buy this, to buy that, and we have this social pressure to always be keeping up with the Johnsons. So if I'm a secretary and I go to the office and I see my other secretary friends wearing the latest style of shoes or latest bag, then I feel the social pressure to buy the latest thing. So we are always kind of financially running against the limit. And when we are that close to our limit, then we don't have margin of error to try new things. So this is another one of the enemies. The other enemy that I see that overpower us is TV. And I love Netflix like everybody else, but what happened is that I see a lot of people going to their job every day And then as soon as they get home, they open their bottle of wine or their six pack of beer and sit in front of the couch and watch whatever TV show is happening. And so what happens there? Then you don't have a space of mind to work on your own ideas because you are constantly consuming somebody else's idea. So what we could do is to open a little bit of space. Let's say you decide to spend 1 hour per day or 20 minutes at least for yourself, a little bit of silence, whether it's reading or just contemplating your ceiling or listening to a podcast that is very inspiring. Anyways, the thing is to get away from your mind being manipulated all the time and have that room for you to create those ideas and then to experiment. And if you give yourself a little bit of financial rope as well, then everything that you do doesn't have to be a huge risk. So we need a little bit of financial resources and a little bit of time. Mental space is mostly what we need. I think having those things, it will take us halfway there.
There you go. There you go. I'm also a big believer in keeping people accountable. And a lot of times that, we're also surrounded, but not just by that advertising and what I call the age of distraction, because the algorithms are getting so much better at distracting us, but also we're also accountable to ourselves, what we tell ourselves. Because you said that in the beginning when you're talking about, going to your classes, recording your classes, and staying up at 3 a.m., vacuuming, listening to your classes. You are responsible for yourself. So you have to have the drive within yourself to keep pushing. And I was wondering if you could actually help us understand just your own vision, your own concept of discipline, accountability, work ethic, and how to just stick to our convictions and our values and to remain disciplined and to produce the work that we need to do. How do we get better at that?
Okay, before getting there, on the issue of accountability, it is nice to have I spoke at the beginning about my group of friends that were I felt when I was living in Colombia they were dragging me down.
Mhm.
Now here I have made it a purpose to look for a group of friends who are lifting me up. So I do regular meetings at my place or in restaurants or whatever. I try to invite people who I admire, who just talking to them inspire me to create something, to do something, and so that's the people that surround you has a great influence on your life. Now, for the part of accountability and discipline, it doesn't. We all think that we have to make dramatic change from one day to the other in order to accomplish something. But the truth is that little small habits are the things that change our life. I'll give you an example. I have this habit of reading at least 20 minutes every day. So it's not a huge amount of time. So any one of us can put aside 20 minutes. So, but it's so easy not to put aside those 20 minutes as well. And if you consider that let's say doing exercise, let's say every night you do 100 abdominals or 50 push-ups. It's so easy to do it, but at the same time, it's so easy not to do it. Eating is so easy to go and to a fast food restaurant and buy a hamburger, and it's also easy to buy a salad and a couple of fruit and eat them as well. So any change that we make in our life doesn't have to be a big dramatic change. It just has to be a small little change that compounded over time, then it's going to be a huge change. So yeah, think of it as a small little sacrifice, not as a huge thing that you have to accomplish from one day to the other. And if you put your mindset in that way, then you can accomplish so much. There's nothing practically that you cannot accomplish.
We always have to stay focused on our overall goal. What is the vision? What is the purpose? And, just thinking about if we're just going to take your podcast as an example, you've been doing it for a while. And again, the quality and, array and a pedigree of guests that you have on is so stellar. And I was wondering, first of all, how did you get into podcasting? I never asked you that. How did you get into podcasting?
Well, I told you that when I used to work, I used to, as a janitor, I used to listen to my classes. But then, after I listened to, let's say, my accounting class one or twice, I got into the habit to constantly be listening to something. So I have been listening to podcasts for almost 20 years now. And these podcasts, they have been my coach, my inspiration. I've tried to follow people that inspire me, that make me dream. And eventually, one of these days, I said, why? Wow, I love this thing so much. One of these days, I would like to do my own podcast. And then I said that to myself a couple of years. And then one day I said to myself, well, one of these days is today. And I just decided, I just bought the microphone. It's not that expensive. And I just hit record. And of course I got into the discipline of asking people almost every day, hey, would you like to be my podcast? Hey, would you like to be my podcast? And many, as you know, many say no, but occasionally someone that you admire, that you think they can contribute, say yes, and that's how it happens.
And isn't that funny how inspiring that is when you realize how you launched that invitation into the universe and you're like, hey, what's the worst that can happen? At least you asked, and then someone that you admire, you really look up to as a quote unquote superstar, and then they genuinely, actively just want to be on the podcast. That is such a rewarding feeling, isn't it?
It is, and you know what? Every time I send an email, I just the bad voice, the evil side of my head says, "Why bother? This person is so busy. He's probably going to say no. He's going to probably delete this email. You are going to annoy him." And then the other voice on the other side of my head says, "Well, if he's gonna say no anyways, don't deprive him of the privilege of saying no." So let that person say no to you. Don't disqualify yourself. And that's what gives me kind of like the daring to send invitations to everyone. I mean, I tell you, I have sent invitation, and this may seem funny, but every time a big star comes to Montreal, I have sent invitation to President Obama, and of course, they haven't been responded. I sent invitation to Hillary Clinton when she was here in Montreal. Of course, they never got responded, but I sent the invitation, and hey, what if Hillary Clinton would have said yes? What if President Obama would have said yes?
Never
You
know.
know that you never know. You never know. Maybe for whatever political reason, he may have felt inclined that to say yes, and there it was. So yeah, I always tell myself, let the don't deprive the other person the opportunity to say no.
And isn't that true how sometimes we are often our own crutch? We are often our own emergency brake, and we refuse to release ourselves into the opportunities and potential greatness that is lying just in front of our face. If you don't take a chance, like I like to say, winners, the common denominator between winners is that they show up. They try. They keep trying. And they keep trying. The fact that you tell me that you shoot out to Obama, you shoot out to Hillary Clinton, you have the natural human reaction like, really? Really, Alain? Like, really, Obama? But what if what happen is like, hey, I emailed Obama and his team got back to me a week later. Sorry, we couldn't meet you in Montreal, but if you like, we could do a Skype call down maybe a couple of months later. Imagine that. Just imagine that for 2 seconds. Just imagine. You know? It's something that you should keep trying. And isn't that something that we keep encouraging people? You have to try.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, don't rob somebody else the opportunity to say no to you. If the answer is going to be negative, well, let them say it. Let them tell you that negative answer, but you don't put the brake on yourself. Let the other one say no.
And how has podcasting, impacted you? What has been, the greatest takeaways up to your journey right now, up to this point?
There are two great takeaways. First of all, as you can see, I'm still struggling. I'm still trying to become a better communicator. And yes, by having to communicate every week, even despite my insecurities, it's, 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 um, it's taking me along on that journey. Better communicator, better relationships. Now that's number one. The thing number two is that topic of surrounding myself with people that I admire. So I cannot have the opportunity to talk to these people on my day-to-day life, but through a podcast, I get to speak to so many intelligent, giving, generous people that yes, that conversation of 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour, it just fills me with hope and ambition and desire to continue going in this path. If I never make 1 cent from my podcast, which right now I don't, it will always be worth it because I get to speak to people who inspire me every day. And not only the speaking part, but also the preparation part. Because of course, if I'm going to speak to someone, I have to learn about them, and while I'm learning about them, and just learning for myself, and I'm motivating myself, and I'm getting to be a better person just by studying somebody else's trajectory.
Amazing. But you talk a lot about, you bring back your accent a lot and your speaking insecurities a lot. And I have no discomfort with it. I'm not judging in any way, but if I may, where do you think that insecurity comes from, Alain?
Uh, I think it's about time to put that insecurity in the deathbed. It comes from the beginning. When I got here, I really struggle, and the not being able to find a job really did harm my self confidence. But right now, by this comment that you just said, and a few of my friends have said the same thing, like you get over it. You have an accent, and so does Arnold Schwarzenegger has an accent. So just get over, and that's what makes you you. So uh, yes, you're coming right now. It's just one more nail in the coffin of this insecurity. So thank you so much for saying that.
It is very true and it's very sincere. I never put words out into the universe. You've learned to know me by now. For me personally, it does not in any way serve as a kink in your armor at all. It's definitely just my friend Alain, and that's how he speaks. And this is his beautiful personality into the universe, and it's not something you should ever try to either suppress or try to adjust for any which person. And normally your tribe that surrounds you, we accept you as is, and it's definitely something that I applaud you for. Don't even worry about it, man. It's a definitely big, big, big thing. Um, Two things I just want to get into, and this is just from my own personal curiosity. For people interested in joining Toastmasters, because you are part of your own the McGill Toastmasters, and I'm always been curious about it. And if you don't mind sharing, what is Toastmasters, and is there, how would you encourage or any particular tips that you just highlight, for people who might be curious about joining?
Toastmaster is a non-profit organization that was created, I believe, in 1929 by a gentleman called Ralph Smedley. And this was created at a time of the Great Depression in the United States. Ralph Smedley used to work at a YMCA in California, and he thought that he could help people uh, prepare for their jobs interview. So he created this club that will do just that, a public speaking club. Now, I call Ralph Smedley an irreasonable man, a man that is just don't think with his any sort of rationale, because he tried for about 20 years to get this club started. He opened a club and then he failed. He opened it again in a different city and then it failed. And finally, after trying for 20 years, it succeeded. It succeeded in I don't know, in somewhere in California.
Oh,
And then
wow.
once it succeeded, then a lot of the people that he was training, they started branching out into other cities in California, which after a few decades, it became all the cities in the United States, and now it's an international organization with about 600,000 members globally, and with the whole purpose of learning, teaching people how to speak in public, and teaching people leadership skills. And one of the things that make it kind of interesting is that every year the 600,000 members of the club compete against each other in order to find out who is the best speaker of the whole
No kidding.
organization. So there is such a thing as the international public speaking championship. And that person who wins, well, first of all, he's doing something that he likes, which is public speaking. And secondly, that person has enough speaking contract to live out of speaking for the rest of his life.
Oh, wow.
So that is now, I think it's in about 140 different countries, and I forget how many thousands of clubs there are, but I'm sure there is a club anywhere where there is well, at least in Canada, there is a club in any major city in the United States as well. And how it goes is that, let's say, you live in, what is it, Brossard?
Konjac.
Okay, Candiac. Okay, so if you just type Toastmasters and Candiac, then you probably will see a map and it will show you the closest one to you and the hours that is under operation. And in your case or anybody else's case, they can just go to a meeting and it costs nothing. You can be a guest and go there and observe for as long as you want. Of course, if you want to start delivering speeches and participating, then you have to become a member. And, for the price that it costs and what you get is just amazing. So I belong to a club called McGill Toastmasters. There, if you arrive there as a new member, you will pay $200 for a whole year. So a whole year, that means 50 weeks of 2-hour sessions. So you are getting 100 hours of training as a speaker and as a leader for just $200. So that's $2 per hour that
A
you are
year.
paying.
Okay.
Yes,
Well, when
exactly.
you break it down, it's not that expensive.
It's $2 per hour of training. It's just nothing. If you just drink a coffee in one of those meetings, that's it. You already broke even. And in all the meetings there are coffee.
Oh, that's definitely interesting because I've been really curious because a lot of people in my network are like members of a local Toastmasters, and I've always been curious and I was like, because I'm always looking for outside activities just to get me out of my daily grind. So it was something I was really curious about. And
Just one additional benefit.
go
The
ahead.
kind of people that go to this kind of meeting are kind of people that are trying to improve themselves.
Hmm.
So if you just build if those people become your friends, your relationship, then you're already improving your life, because there's nothing better for somebody else's life than to hang out with people who are optimists, who wants to improve themselves.
That's always, always, always an added bonus for anyone on their journey. That is a terrific, terrific thing. Thank you so much for highlighting that. I really, really appreciate it. But we can't leave off the conversation without one of really big milestone. Alain wrote a book. Montreal entrepreneurship. Dude, it was such a fun read because it's such a cool thing, first of all, to read something from someone that you know. It's something that you grab a book by the Tony Robbins of the world, but when someone, push out the effort, to put out a book, an actual book, and guys, you should definitely check it out. It's available on Amazon. Really easy read. Montreal Entrepreneurship From Idea to Lifestyle by Alain Guillot. Guys, you definitely should check it out. But Alain, where did the book start from? And for those of us with the audacity to even think that they can write a book, what would be your greatest tips? But congratulations, first of all, on the publication. But walk us through that. How was that like? Well, how was the process like? Come on.
Okay, so thank you so much. um, Well, you know that we have the tools available nowadays. If you want to uh, create videos, there is YouTube. If you want to write blogs, there is all kind of blogging platforms. If you want to write a book, there is Amazon. So the era of the permission givers is over. You, at one time, if you wanted to write a book, you had to send a proposal, then you had to get all this letter of rejection, then you had to write X amount of proposals again. Now, now all you have to do is basically write a book and then go to Amazon and upload it. So so the thing that is preventing people from writing a book is not the tools, the lack of tools, but then the courage to do it. And now, where do you get that courage? Well, in my case, I just saw other people writing books, and then I said, "Hey, if they can do it, I can do it too." So now, what's the process? We spoke about habits not too long ago. If you just set a little bit of time to do this, or if you set a little bit of time to do that, then there's no limit to what you can do. So in my case, I just decided every day I'm just going to take 20 minutes and I'm just going to write a book. I'm going to write my own story as an entrepreneur, and I'm going to be sharing the stories of other entrepreneurs around me. And that's basically the book. I share how I came to Canada, all the struggles, the real estate, the dance school, the photography, all these little stories I put it together as my own. And then, of course, I wanted to share the stories of other people who have inspired me. So then it comes to having the will to do it, having the discipline to do it, and then just basically hitting publish. And another thing is, I have a few friends who have written books, have even publish it in Amazon, but then they haven't told anyone because I guess we are self-conscious or shy or whatever. But I made it a point to make a little party. I invite a few friends and just celebrate because every time we accomplish something, it's nice to congratulate yourself and say, I accomplished something before moving to the next stage of your life.
I really love the way you put it. The era of the permission givers is over. Writing a book is probably on a lot of people's bucket lists, but to this point, you're always still waiting. And that's a lot of conversation a lot of people try to give themselves. The fact that maybe I should. Am I good enough? Am I good enough? Who would want to read my book? Who would want to do this? Why should I write this? You should write it because you want to. You should write it because you feel like it. You should write it because it's something you want to do. You're not doing it for the applause. You're doing it because it's something that genuinely means a lot to you. And that is something that I applaud you for because it's not anybody that can have the courage to actually sit down, write a book. And again, I'm not asking you to write a Stephen King novel. I'm pretty sure that's not what you set out to do. But you did what you had to do and what you knew you wanted to do, which is tell your own story. And I applaud you for that because that's a really huge deal. And I really, really congratulate you. It's a really big undertaking. I really love it. Simple read, easy read, and definitely really covers, the wonderful adventure that was your life, up to this point and continuing ongoing beautiful entrepreneur journey.
Man, thank you so much for your kind words.
No,
This really filled my heart of joy. Thank you
but
so
it's
much.
it's sincere. It's sincere. It's really, really. There's a lot to be proud about. I'm not there yet, but definitely at some point you'll probably get a link over LinkedIn, like, hey, people, like check out my book on Amazon. I'm not there yet.
Exactly. Well, so all it takes is just that, taking the decision and sitting, just saying, from this time to this time, I'm going to be sitting in front of the computer. And even if I don't type anything at all, that's the moment in which I'm going to be waiting for inspiration. Whether inspiration arrive or not, I'm just going to be sitting there. And inspiration sees you on the ether and say, wow, Oliver is sitting in the computer waiting for me. Maybe I'm going to come tomorrow. And one day inspiration comes. But if you are there, if you make that appointment with inspiration and you sit there, then inspiration is going to come to you. But you just have to be there. You cannot be in the couch watching Netflix. Netflix was the inspiration of somebody else.
The Netflix people are not going to like us in this recording because we've been bashing them throughout the entire interview.
Well, yeah, it's not really Netflix. It's whatever. It's the six pack of beer. It's the whatever other distraction that is preventing you from accomplishing your dreams.
It's definitely true. It really reminds me at some point. It's crazy that you're saying that. But this book I really like by Charlemagne the God. He's basically a New York broadcaster, but he's really popular. He wrote a book, and then one of the book's titles, it's definitely about his upbringing in a very rough neighborhood. He's basically saying your life is in your hands, so you have to pick your poison, passion, or procrastination. But it's your choice eventually. So, it's a nice way to anchor it. But I hate the fact that we're coming on top of the hour because it's such a genuine energy filled conversation. But I will promise to keep my promises in terms of not taking up too much of your time, but because I'm so grateful for your time because it's the one gift that you can't give back, and the one gift that is so invaluable, which is your time. I want to thank you for this wonderful exchange, this terrific energy, and these amazing, inspiring tips that we can all use, to build our little path towards our next chapter and our next journey. Because people need to hear these truths. People need to hear these empowering facts that are just the fruit of your personal circumstances, the true proof of your, proof of concept in what you've achieved. And it's such amazing things, and I see nothing but greatness for you coming down the pipeline. First of all, and it's always the last thing I would just want to leave people with. It's always a running tradition on the podcast. Listening to the podcast as you do, I always try to launch it. Find a final word, a kind thought, a quote, an inspiring call to action, something we can leave the listeners with so they can take that next step towards their next level. What can we leave them with?
Build little habits. One little habit every day is going to take you a long way. One little habit that you neglect to do, then it's going to take you nowhere.
Oh, that's such a good one. That is such a good one. Ale, if people the listeners want to connect with you over the interwebs, where can we find you? Alain Guillot, website? Do we Google you? Do we get on the podcast on iTunes? Where can we find you?
AlainGuillot.com.
That's the main hub. That's definitely all direct people.
Yeah, that's got a page for the podcast, a page for the book. What is it? I create events from time to time, so an open invitation to anyone who wants to come to the events. They're basically small dinner parties where people just get to mingle. Usually, I invite people who are inspiring, who have a positive mindset, and you and I met in person in one of these
had a lot of fun.
dinners.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you for that invitation. We had a lot of fun.
As you can see, everyone was somehow an optimist, a dreamer, and from different backgrounds, but everyone searching for a better life.
Great energy. Great energy. Alain Guillot, fellow podcaster, real estate investor, amazing dance teacher, photographer, all around genuine, kind-hearted individual. I can't thank you enough. Wearer of so many hats, but at the core, a terrific human being and someone I'm really looking forward to keep on connecting with down the road of life, or wherever life takes you. Alain, I want to congratulate you on everything and thank you again for this wonderful, wonderful exchange.
It's
Guys,
me who thank you, Oliver. Thank you so much for having me here.
This has been another episode of the Awaken the Awesome podcast in the can with my friend Alain Guillot. Guys, catch up to the episode. Throughout the show notes. The show notes will be available, and I'll be sure to connect all the web links when this episode goes live. Guys, as always, thank you for being a part of this journey, this Awakening the Awesome journey. Please use all these wonderful tips and make sure that to use them and apply them towards your next level. Guys, as always, stay blessed, stay sane, stay resilient, stay beautiful, and please do stay awesome. This has been another episode of the Awaken the Awesome podcast. We always love to get your feedback, so please do drop us a line via Instagram, Facebook, or email. Our email address, awakentheawesome@gmail.com. Do visit our official website at awakentheawesome.ca, where you can find our entire back catalog of episodes and incredible guests. Also, if you haven't already, please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, give us a rating, and leave us a review, as this helps us tremendously in growing this podcast and spreading the word to more awesome listeners like you. We always appreciate your support, and thank you for listening. Stay awesome.